In the early hours of January 15th, 1978, evil walked through the halls of Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. Two young women lost their lives that night to one of America's most notorious serial killers, Ted Bundy. But according to a story that has captivated Catholics worldwide, there was a third room he entered. A room where a young woman lay sleeping, clutching her rosary beads. What happened next defies explanation and has become one of the most powerful testimonies of divine protection in modern times. If you're seeking stories of miraculous intervention and the power of prayer, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because today we're diving deep into a mystery that challenges everything we think we know about good versus evil. Chapter 1. The Promise to Grandmother. Before that fateful night in Tallahassee, there lived a young Catholic woman whose grandmother had instilled in her a devotion that would literally save her life. Every evening, without fail, she would kneel beside her bed and pray the Rosary, just as her grandmother had taught her since childhood. This wasn't merely a habit or tradition. It was a sacred promise, a covenant of protection passed down through generations of faithful women. The rosary beads, worn smooth by countless prayers, had become her spiritual armor in a world that seemed increasingly dangerous for young women on college campuses. Her roommates often found her asleep with the blessed beads still wrapped around her fingers, a sight that some found endearing and others perhaps thought excessive. Little did anyone know that this simple act of devotion, this nightly ritual of surrendering to Mary's protection, would soon stand between her and unimaginable horror. The power of the Rosary isn't just Catholic folklore. It's a weapon that has protected the faithful for over 800 years, and that night it would prove its strength against the darkest of human intentions. But what makes this story even more extraordinary is what Ted Bundy himself would later confess from death row, a revelation that would shake even the most skeptical observers to their core. Chapter 2. The Night Evil was stopped. As Ted Bundy moved silently through the Chi Omega house, his twisted mind focused on violence and death. He had already brutally attacked 4 young women. The house was eerily quiet, save for the occasional creak of old wooden floors beneath his feet. He approached another door, another potential victim sleeping peacefully inside. But as his hand reached for the doorknob, something unprecedented happened. Something that would haunt him for the rest of his life and ultimately lead to one of the most remarkable confessions in criminal history. According to the account that has been shared in Catholic circles worldwide, Bundy found himself unable to enter that room. Not because of a locked door or any physical barrier, but because of what witnesses describe as an invisible force, a presence so powerful that even a man consumed by evil could not overcome it. Inside, the young woman slept peacefully, her rosary beads intertwined in her fingers, completely unaware that the Mother of God was standing guard over her soul. The very air seemed to shimmer with divine protection, creating an impenetrable shield that no earthly evil could breach. Years later, sitting in a cold prison cell awaiting execution, Bundy would struggle to explain what he experienced that night, leading to a confession that would change how many people view the power of prayer forever. Chapter 3. The Death Row Confession. In the final days before his execution, Ted Bundy found himself face to face with a Catholic chaplain, Monsignor Kerr, seeking some form of redemption for his unspeakable crimes. During these conversations, Bundy made a confession that sent shockwaves through the religious community and beyond. He spoke of that night at Chi Omega, describing how he had intended to enter one more room, but found himself completely unable to do so. The words he used to describe the experience were haunting. He felt as though he was being pushed back by an invisible force, something so powerful and pure that his very presence seemed to recoil from it. What makes this confession even more remarkable is Bundy's description of what he sensed in that room. He spoke of an overwhelming feeling of peace and protection, a presence that was entirely foreign to his dark world. For a man who had shown no mercy, no compassion, and no fear throughout his killing spree, This encounter with divine protection left him shaken and confused. He couldn't understand how a simple string of beads could create such an impenetrable barrier, but he knew without doubt that something supernatural had intervened that night. This testimony from one of America's most notorious killers serves as a powerful reminder that the Rosary isn't just a collection of prayers. It's a direct line to heaven's most powerful intercessor. For those seeking deeper spiritual protection and wanting to learn about other saints who offer divine intervention, our ebook 50 Saints, Stories and Prayers for Divine Intervention contains the lives and prayers of various saints who have protected the faithful throughout history. You can find it in our store below. The ripple effects of this miraculous protection would extend far beyond that single night, inspiring countless Catholics to embrace the Rosary with renewed faith and devotion. Chapter 4: The Science of Miracles. While skeptics might dismiss this account as mere coincidence or fabricated testimony, the Catholic Church has long recognized that miracles often occur in ways that transcend human understanding. The Rosary, blessed by Pope St. Pius V in 1571, after the miraculous victory at the Battle of Lepanto, carries with it centuries of documented supernatural protection. From soldiers in World War II who credited their survival to Mary's intercession, to families who escaped persecution behind the Iron Curtain through Rosary devotion, the historical record is filled with similar accounts of divine intervention. What makes the Chi Omega incident particularly compelling is not just the testimony of Ted Bundy, but the broader context of Marian protection throughout church history. Saint Dominic himself received the Rosary directly from the Blessed Virgin Mary in 1208, and since then, countless souls have experienced protection through this powerful prayer. The beads themselves become conduits of grace, blessed objects that carry the prayers of the faithful directly to the throne of heaven. When we consider the spiritual warfare that surrounds us daily, the idea that evil would be repelled by such concentrated holiness becomes not just plausible, but expected. Modern neuroscience has even begun to explore how prayer affects the brain, showing measurable changes in areas associated with peace, protection, and spiritual awareness, though science will never fully explain the mysteries of faith. Chapter 5: The Ripple Effect of Protection. The story of the young woman saved by her Rosary has inspired millions of Catholics worldwide to deepen their devotion to Mary and embrace the daily recitation of this powerful prayer. Prayer groups have formed specifically to pray for protection against violence, and countless testimonies have emerged from people who credit their own survivals to Marian intercession. The account has been shared in parishes from New York to Nigeria, from small rural churches to grand cathedrals, each reinforcing the timeless truth that Mary never abandons her children in their hour of greatest need. What's particularly moving about this story is how it demonstrates that holiness doesn't require grand gestures or public displays of faith. Sometimes the most powerful spiritual protection comes from the quiet, consistent devotion of a young woman keeping a promise to her grandmother. Her simple act of falling asleep with rosary beads in her hands created a fortress of prayer that even the darkest evil could not penetrate. This reminds us that every Hail Mary we pray, every mystery we contemplate, builds spiritual armor around our souls and the souls of those we love. The legacy of that night continues to inspire new generations of Catholics to trust in Mary's protection, proving that one moment of divine intervention can echo through eternity, touching hearts and saving souls across the globe. Conclusion. As we reflect on this extraordinary account of divine protection, we're reminded that the battle between good and evil is not just a theological concept. It's a daily reality that plays out in ways both seen and unseen. The young woman who slept peacefully that night, protected by her rosary and her grandmother's prayers, represents all of us who seek refuge in Mary's maternal care. Her story challenges us to examine our own prayer lives and ask ourselves, are we truly trusting in the power of the rosary, or are we treating it as mere ritual? The beads that saved her life that night were made powerful not by their material composition, but by the faith and devotion with which they were prayed. In a world that often feels increasingly dangerous and unpredictable, This account offers us hope and practical wisdom. The Rosary remains our most accessible and powerful weapon against evil, a gift from heaven that requires nothing more than our willingness to pray with sincere hearts. Whether we face physical danger, spiritual attack, or the everyday struggles that threaten our peace, Mary stands ready to protect those who call upon her name. If this story has moved your heart and strengthened your faith, please share it with others who need to hear about the miraculous power of prayer. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of divine intervention. And remember, in a world full of darkness, the light of faith will always prevail. The Rosary that protected one young woman that night continues to protect millions around the world today, proving that some forces are simply too powerful for evil to overcome.